Hi, Greg. Jeff Allen here. It's easier to do in a video format than it is to type this out. A little bit faster to do too, and a little bit easier to kind of explain things than text. The I guess it's for this all the Duolingo things, and I'll say for a lot of these computer-assisted language learning kind of software programs, which are really just kind of electronic versions of other ones. I'm, and I've been working on these computer assisted language learning things even back as far as the year 2000, I think, was when I was actually working on a European Commission project for that back then. Because I work on translation, I work on a lot of automatic translation software. I've been doing that for a long time and have done a lot of speech translation, speech technologies too for the past 25 years too. And so I've worked on a number of projects that kind of aim for, especially for the European Commission funded ones that are trying to aim at this computer assisted language learning stuff. In addition to having been, a language instructor for 10 years before all this. So, before all that, and having been a business executive student, not just student, university students or high school students, but, and so the, the I remember when I took kind of anecdotes here because I'm a language learner. I'm a linguist, right? I'm a linguist. I'm a theoretical linguist, a fieldwork linguist, and phonetician, all that. But I'm one of those language nuts, right? A language nerd, and so I like to learn languages, just like you. And I remember when I wanted to learn German, and the funny thing is when I went into to go into the town hall for the Paris is offering this thing for the evening. So I went in and they had us take a test, right? Well, they asked us if you don't know any German at all, then go over to these people, the first level people, and if you done some German, then go with the other group. Well, I've been to Germany and Liechtenstein and Switzerland and Austria a number of times, and I can kind of get by and buy some food and get to the toilets and stuff, right, and find the train station or whatever. So I've been, done that. So I decided to not do the basic group, and I went to the second group, and I took this 50 question test, which is just like killer, right? Um, but I've never studied German, right? I don't know all that. How do you say what time it is? I could see the thing, but I knew what they were trying to do in these 50 questions. I knew exactly what they were trying to get at because I've been a language teacher. I used to be on the side of the teacher. Wanted people to learn these things. I knew exactly what they're getting at, but I didn't have the vocabulary at all. And so I got the end of it and knew that I'd failed that miserably. And then and then I get to talk with the teacher, and the teacher starts asking me these questions in German. And I just basically said, look, and I said in French, because I was here in France, I just look, I don't know what you're saying, but I do know what you're saying. I have no idea what you're saying because I've never studied German in classes, but I do know what you're saying because I know what you're trying to get me to ask. I know what the questions you're asking me to get me to answer the questions, but I don't have the vocabulary to answer it. But I said, let me show you what I know. And I came out with some sentences, and that was my kind of main thing was wir sind groß stark, those kind of things. Or die Tasse ist kleiner. And I said a few of those sentences, right? And she laughed. She said, "You're going to go into second semester, but you're going to have to work your butt off hard to catch up." That's what she said to me. Okay, and I actually did that. I went into class, but during that semester, and I think this is why I stayed. This is what I did to catch up. As I went down to the bookstore, and in the section where you have CDs and stuff, not about 8 years ago. They had all the CDs and they wanted to buy CDs, right? Well, they had a audio cassette section, right? They had a box of all these audio cassettes of all these different learning methods, right? Audio cassettes. I bought them all. I bought everything 50% off. I literally bought 5 or 6 methods that are all audio cassettes. Off the top of my head, there were Collins, HarperCollins, LaRousse. I mean, Assimil, I bought them all. And then because I spent 4 hours a day in the train going to work before COVID, back and forth, I would listen to these audio cassettes of all these different learning methods every day. And so I completely listened to everything. Now it didn't. It helped me understand, and they're all kind of doing the same thing, right? They're all trying to do the same thing. but they're using different ways of doing it. And so it was really interesting to kind of get all these things all about Sally, greetings and stuff. And they're all trying to the same vocabulary kind of thing, but they're getting all these different ways. And I found some of them were better for me, and some were not so well. And as a language teacher, I could totally understand what they were trying to get at too, right? Or having a language instructor. So it was really interesting to see all these, audio cassettes. And then I used the CD version. I bought the old CD, the previous year's CDs as well, right? So I watched all those, trying to catch up during the semester of two-hour sessions per week, and all of that. And this is before Duolingo, and that now. And there was like Rosetta Stone and stuff. I didn't use those, but and Pimsleur, I didn't get the Pimsleur one. I should have gotten the Pimsleur. Maybe I did get the Pimsleur for German. I think I did. Yeah, I did get the Pimsleur for German, and Pimsleur was great. Pimsleur has a really good reputation for this, and it really was as good as they had said. So, and so I really, the whole this there. A lot of them are coming from different perspectives to get you to learn, but they're all still focused on that you're learning from no knowledge at all, right? and then when you get into these computer assisted language ones, right, where there's interactive stuff, and there always have been. I bought a few of them for Spanish that you could use a microphone and stuff. And back in between 2000 and 2003, I bought a bunch of few that were cheap. I just saw them, and so I bought them. They had a microphone and stuff. And it was all trying to get to pronounce and do some self-evaluation or having some evaluation with them, automatic recognition. That kind of worked, but it wasn't always great, right? And now Duolingo, I've done probably 4 or 5 languages. I can't remember the ones. I think I did the English one for fun, just kind of see what it did. I did the French one because I've lived in France for 30 years and got a BA in French, and I did my university degrees in French universities. So, my family's French, right? So, and then I did Spanish, and I did Swahili, and I did Haitian Creole. Haitian Creole I do speak fairly fluently. I know it pretty well. Did German as well. And I found that the Duolingo, I kind of got bored just because it was trying to do repetitive things, and I was figured out the stories. And we already mentioned that. So the funny, and it was funny that every time I was doing it, I was saying I recognize the story, so I know what the story is trying to tell me to do, right? If I could just learn the vocabulary through all the little exercises, then I can actually get through the story. And it really just made me speed through with German, and Swahili too. And Swahili had pretty basic knowledge. I knew greetings pretty well, but didn't know the rest. So I could actually fast track the Swahili because I knew the stories well. I knew the exercise in the stories and what they're trying to get at, the vocabulary they're trying to get at you to learn. And that's a different structure of language. But I agree that there are lots of different things. I think Chinese would be really interesting, but I know that the tonal things doesn't work in Chinese very well. So that's a whole other kind of bag of nuts. But I think all this is again, these systems are made for people that have zero knowledge and that don't have an acute sense of language learning like we do, right? And so it can be really boring for us because it's trying to let you learn some things. And some of those systems to the software, what I've seen, it's like if you're good at taking tests, if you're doing and kind of tests, and I guess these are American companies, right? So some of these. And the whole thing back there in the United States is taking tests, right? The SAT test, the pre-SAT test, the GMAT test, the GM, I can't remember the test. So now all these questions and stuff, and they're all about, math, and if you had this in this certain direction and you were going this fast and you did this, how many people would, there's all these kind of things. And a lot of these things are about tests. And once you figure out how the test works, you can actually answer the questions. even if you don't know the information very well. So it's kind of, you can kind of get by tests by just knowing how the test structure is, right? Like when I was taking the Duolingos, I did, it's kind of like that. It's, if I understand how the testing works, then I can know the words I need to know to get to the next level, right? Then I can get more points. And so I kind of felt that with the Duolingo. And I'm not, going to say anything negative about Duolingo. I just felt it. But it's aimed for people that you want to help them give structure, so you can actually learn the building blocks of things. But the problem we've got, and I've written about this in some of my articles about language learning, and I've wrote a whole thing about, whole essays about how to learn languages quickly for adults. And one of the things that we do is, you know, we have our advantage, you and I and other few others, is that we already know the linguist. We already understand how structured languages are structured, right? And different languages are structured, and some have cases, some don't. And so we're looking for logical things, right? And that's why when I learned German, it was like playing Legos for me, because they're Tetris, right? I just need to know the building blocks, and I'll make the whole thing go. And I'm a linguist too. I mean, I'm a theoretical linguist, and I've taught syntax and morphology, and taught semantics and phonology and phonetics. So I'm just looking for all these basic data and aggregated data, and I can just throw it together and just run with it. But I just don't have the what what is the what's the masculine, feminine, or neuter that goes with this word, right? And because that's going to affect the other cases I'm going to have to apply to it, right? That's the only thing I'm missing sometimes. So, and there aren't always structural ways to figure that out, or at least native speakers don't know how to tell you that. But non-native speakers, when they teach a language, they teach it. They know other ways to know the rules, right? So, like in French, the French don't know the rules because they weren't taught them. But I always say, well, all the masculine, all metals are all masculine words, and all trees are masculine words. So I know these things. I knew these ways to tell people how to learn the language faster. Once you know that, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Or all, feminine words that end in E, or all countries are. I mean, there are rules that, except for four, right? So there are rules that you can kind of learn from, extrapolate. But I think that this is really, I think, I mean, when I went to Poland, that was kind of a fun experience. No, when I went to Amsterdam, I just took a phrase book with me and figured a bunch of things and just practiced it, and by the third or fourth request of asking for directions, they were speaking to me back in kind of fluent Dutch, rather than asking me if I want to speak in English, right? After 2 or 3 questions, after asking the same question a few times to get to find the train station. But I remember going to Poland and spending 2 or 3 days there, and kind of listening a lot in the tram and asking some questions and kind of saying the same things. Just, I need to trade some money and exchange some money and do some stuff, and saying a few things, and it was just enough to kind of get the people to, they understood. But I think this is all kind of a really interesting thing. But for polyglots that are really have done, more than, let's say, 2 or 3 languages, these software can be, and not just software, it can also be the audio cassettes, right? It can be the older versions too. They can feel insufficient, let's say it that way, because what we need usually is we need a tutor. We need a language tutor, and I've always known this. You just give me a language tutor, and I will figure out the language pretty quickly, because I'm going to be asking certain questions to help me build my Lego blocks together, right? And that will help me do it. And I'll ask them questions that'll be difficult for a native speaker to actually answer, because I'll be asking things they've never thought that way before, right? They've never thought about the rules that way. They've taught in the same ways, but they haven't thought the way I'm going to ask them questions. I'm asking them ways to help them build that language in pieces that will help me learn it faster. So it's a really fun thing. But and this will come back, how easy is language to learn, and how well these software or things help learn it. It all, the answer is it's as long as a string, right? because it all depends on the person, your motivation, your existing skill set, knowledge, social knowledge, all kinds of stuff. So it's all kind of really interesting. But yeah, fun and fun. So thanks for listening. Thanks for the dialogue and have a great day.